we're looking at these images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi now leaving the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad after that spectacular ceremony that took place with the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Now begins the second leg, equally important, of this visit of the Australian Prime Minister. The first leg was in Ahmedabad, the second leg in Mumbai, and then the summit that takes place in the national capital in Delhi. As Ambassador Dogra was explaining, the business aspect, very, very important for the Australians. They're looking at trade and security, remains top agenda for them. Coal, LNG, lithium for battery manufacturing, hydrogen import for India. And that again, Ambassador Dogra, very, very important given India's extremely ambitious goals on renewable energy targets, 50% of energy requirement by 2030 being met by renewable energy, sir.
Well, India would be one of the rare countries in the world which has set itself an ambitious goal in terms of renewable energy and is well on its way to hopefully achieving it. So in that sense, any Indo-Australian cooperation would be useful for both the countries, not just for India. So yes, the new frontiers of technology are an area that both the countries are keen on working on, especially in light of the fact that there are interests, for example, from Taiwan in setting up semiconductor factories in India. There are interests from American side, like Apple wanting to expand its manufacturing facilities in India. So Australians are watching these developments very carefully, and they want to participate in order to profit from the opportunities that are coming up in India while it is drying elsewhere in the world.
In fact, they call it early advantage, early movers advantage on commercial deals with India, on economic deals with India, on agreements that they hope to achieve with India. So on this visit, and given the number of visits that are happening, this is a summit. You had Penny Wong, the foreign minister, here recently for the Raisina dialogue. You've had the Quad foreign ministers meeting. You have two of their ministers, energy minister, tourism minister, who's here just now. A huge shift in Australian engagement with India in the past decade, you'd say?
Well, yes, certainly, there's no doubt about it, and there's no denying that fact, because if you just look at the trade statistics, or if you look at the number of students going to Australia for studies, the increase is phenomenal, and that can only happen when leadership shows interest in each other. To give you one statistic, the last prime ministerial visit by India to Australia was during the time of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, and after that Mr. Modi went there in 2014. So that was a huge gap. Once you start visiting each other, then at the leadership level, then the rest starts following. Maybe not immediately, but within a couple of years at the maximum, if there is follow-up. To give you another example, just recently, the Indo-Australian Economic and Trade Agreement was finalized, which makes it easier for Australian exports to flow into India and vice versa. So these are facilitators which lead to increase in a relationship, and you are absolutely right that in recent years those technical drawbacks have been taken care of, those roadblocks have been cleared, and now the way ahead is much smoother.
But, you know, things like India's association or proximity to Russia, India refusing to criticize Russia, India continuing to take so much energy, oil from Russia. Does that remain a niggle, or sometimes when some of the commentary in Australia talks about and it's absolutely incorrect, lack of freedom of expression in India. Does that remain a niggle in relationship, or is this par for the course?
Well, I don't think in international affairs there is anything called a fixed marriage. We are not married to America. We are not in American camp or Australian camp or British camp. We are independent countries, just as they are sovereign countries, and they have to take care of their interests. All our complaints, all our appeals to America about Pakistan had no effect at all.
Yeah.
America went ahead with its relationship with Pakistan at its whims and fancies. It regretted, of course, but despite that, for one reason or the other, it felt that it must have a foot in Pakistani camp, because it thought mistakenly now that its strategic interests were best served there. I think Afghanistan taught them a lesson, but still America is not leaving its Pakistan relationship. So when that is so, how can America expect that India should abandon its past association, forget about all the help that Russia and India have given to each other, all the help that Russia has given to support India's defense preparedness, and sit itself squarely in the American lap? That's not going to happen, and that's not wise either. So after protests, which were largely for public reasons, because American leadership understands India's needs and compulsions vis-a-vis Russia, they have quietened down. You don't hear too much about that. So those noises or little noises which persist are motivated noises of the arms industry, which wants India to buy more from, let's say, America or some other Western country. But that's not going to affect our decisions making or our relationship with an established partner like Russia.
How would China be viewing this? How would China be viewing the summit with Anthony Albanese, the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting, the massive engagement that India is having with the world, especially in our G20 presidency, sir?
Well, again, China makes noises strategically. It makes noises in anticipation of what could happen. And I think it is correct in that sense that by making noises, it thinks it will be able to restrain or constrain a relationship like Quad, for example, which has potential. But at the same time, let me bring in the Pakistan angle. India's worries about, for example, the China-Pakistan economic corridor have not hampered China's efforts to go through Indian territory, which is now occupied by Pakistan. Nor has it hampered China's ambitions in Gwadar. So China's noises are not going to make any difference to the Quad relationship or the Quad plans or India's relationship with any of the Quad countries. But it is certainly all those noises will act as a reminder that China is not too happy about it.
But, okay, you know, this conversation about how China would be reacting, you talked about Pakistan, these are some very interesting aspects, because as far as India is concerned, that distance is not there, that distance that other countries may enjoy with Pakistan, a state sponsor of terror, or China, that's actually wreaking havoc on economies in several parts of the world, and including the strategic threat that China poses to countries like Japan, Australia and India, to an extent even to the United States of America.